I want to talk about aliveness. What is this? We can sleepwalk through our lives. We can follow the paths that maybe are not always easy, but are the paths we've seen modeled before us, so we kind of know the next rung and the next rung and the next rung. Or maybe we can dream bigger and consider a different way of being, a different way of working, a different way of being in relationship with ourselves, with another. And when I think about this, what comes up is aliveness. And aliveness is a theme for me and part of my wish for all beings and the world. And in this sense of aliveness, there are three things that really provide access to dipping into, touching, inhabiting this aliveness in our everyday. One is liberating our joy, giving ourselves permission to be in that joy, in that delight, in that pleasure, not because we've earned it, not because it's the weekend or our vacation, but because we woke up in the morning. We were born worthy and deserving of this joy, no more, no less than any other person. And when we're inhabiting this joy, and it may be as simple as listening to the birds, or right now I'm at Kogala Lake in Sri Lanka, and I'm listening to the waves gently brush against the shore, or watching a sunset. To me, this brings great joy. And so if we're inhabiting this joy regularly, not just as something that we feel we've earned on the weekend, how much more energy, how much more nourishment, how much more resource, how much more sustenance do we have with which to approach our work, with which to approach our relationship with ourselves, with our stakeholders, with the changes that we're trying to create, the positive changes we're trying to create, we wish to create in the world. So liberate our joy, this thing that we have, this feeling we've devalued, or we've said, oh, well, I'll get to that later, or maybe when, after earning something. But joy doesn't need to be earned. It's there for us always. So liberate our joy, give ourselves the permission to inhabit this space is one way to access and invite this aliveness regularly, as well as recognizing the abundant healing and guidance available in nature. If I wake up in the morning and I'm just spinning in anxiety, or I sit down on my meditation bench and all that's coming, I'm just seeing all of these things that I'm worrying about in the future, or what happened yesterday, what my plans are today, a sure way to come back to grounding, to clarity, to calm, to ease, to the person that I know I am, who can solve these problems, who can live in the uncertainty, who just is resourced, is to be in nature, is to pay deep attention to nature, to notice the guidance that is available there, the signs that maybe we can interpret for ourselves, and to be with the stillness and the calm, listening to the birds, the waves, noticing the flowers, the textures. Nature just is. Nature just is, and that's within each of us. And then presence. I think presence is so critical. So presence is this deep and still attention to ourselves, to what's around us, to the person we're talking to, with our own intuition or our own emotions and heart. This deep ability to be the practice, actually, an ability I think we all have, but it's a practice for sure, of being still and attentive, of being in presence. And that sometimes doing what looks like nothing on the outside, sitting here at the lake, what's she doing? How lucky. That practice of being still and paying attention might look like doing absolutely nothing, but sometimes, maybe even oftentimes, might be the most productive, nourishing, even innovative to do nothing. It might be the most helpful way for us to then go about the action of whatever it is we set out to do, whatever change we're here to help foster along, to cultivate. And having this deep connection to the body in that presence, as well as in nature, as well as in our joy. Like, oh, you know that feeling in the body when you're like, soul on fire with aliveness and joy. Or when you're in your favorite place in nature. Like, how many people, if you say, oh, think of your happy place. So many people, most people maybe even, think of a place in nature, right? And think of it as a special place. And then the gift of presence and stillness and being, and how often we don't do this, but that it's there for us if we choose. And I believe in this revolution of aliveness, and that this is really essential to our work in the world. Again, with our relationships to ourselves, to nature, to humanity. And that inhabiting our aliveness gives us a window, a door to our courage to be different, to start modeling something other than what we've seen before, so that we can start solving some of these intractable problems, or co-creating, co-collaborating, working in harmony with, to create maybe new solutions, or to reduce some destruction. But I think it's this aliveness that is so essential, and does give us a window to our courage to be different. And in our aliveness, at least I know for me, is when I feel the most myself. I call this inner radiance, my ability to hear and be with the birds, with that joy. And how much more can I do from a sense of a place of inner radiance, of touching my own essence? How much more potent is this? How much more real? How much more alive? And what if we bring this to our work? What if we bring this to each other? And this aliveness, this aliveness, this inner radiance, this sharing of it is so important to the changes we seek, and for us to first lead and embody those changes that we wish for ourselves and the world. And we have this one wild and precious life, as Mary Oliver says, to live. What are we doing with it? What am I doing with it? What are you doing with it? A revolution of aliveness as a critical, essential piece to living a full life, doing the work that lights us up, and being part of that change that we know is possible, even if it is lifetimes after ours, and we're just part of the beginning, part of the story.